We're streaming on Facebook. What's up?
There we go.
Yeah, we made it. All right. Facebook gave us a little problem. Wrestling Nation, Wrestling World, Ward Wrestling Live. Booyah, we're here with my man Tim Prescott, taking over the program back in his hometown at Central Christian College. How cool is that to be back home? He's the 2015 D1 National Champ out of St. Cloud, Minnesota State University. Two-time NCAA D2 Team National Champ there. Two-time Junior College All-American and Wrestler of the Year in his conference at NSIC, amongst a bunch of other accolades. You can look it up, type in Tim Prescott Wrestling, and you'll find everything he's done, all the schools he's coached at, and where he wrestled. So now he's back in Kansas, McPherson, Kansas to be exact. We're here with Coach Tim Prescott. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Good. I'm glad to be here and obviously glad to be back. But I'm going to have to stop you right there. The old joke is a lot of people think McPherson is pronounced McPherson, but the running joke in our hometown here is that there's no fear McPherson.
So it's McPherson.
Yeah.
But that's got to be good for you because McPherson and coming from St. Cloud, Minnesota, you can kind of talk the same way.
Yeah. So it goes hand in hand, but it's the old running joke that is as easy as it is. People like to say, "Oh, there's no fear here," So
McPherson. So I got to remember McPherson, like I'm from Ireland.
Yeah. Well, we actually have a Scottish festival every year in this town, so it goes hand in hand with it really well.
That's why I was trying to read about the town and it kept coming up with food names that I couldn't pronounce, so I left it alone.
I believe it.
So how are you, man? How's everything going? I know you're over there and you're starting that program. Well, you're not starting it, but you're taking over the program at Central Christian. Talk a little bit about that, the culture you're building there, what your goals are, and talk about how this COVID has kind of sucked some time out of you to being able to kind of get the thing moving.
Yeah, no, well, the COVID thing's a whole, that's interesting.
Feel free to share.
Right, that's interesting as it is, and I think I don't think I'm the only one dealing with it. Obviously, there's other, coaches, they're starting programs right now that, that starting from scratch during this, and I can only imagine what that's like, just from the ground up in an area that maybe isn't predominantly strong in wrestling or it's new for wrestling. So those are different challenges as it is. For myself here, it's still a bit of challenging as this program's pretty new. I think it's 3 years old, around 3 to 4. Tom Carr was the old head coach here before. I took the job recently, and he did a really great job. McPherson's a small town and it's never had a collegiate wrestling program. There's actually two colleges in a town, that's population of 13,000. So, and they're both NAIA programs, but fortunately we're the only one with wrestling because that'd be a mess already if there was already 2 college wrestling programs with that are 2 minutes away from each other campus wise. So
I think that would be fun. That would be fun for McPherson.
Yeah, it would be. But we got another NAIA program that's 20 minutes away at Bethany College that I actually know the coach there really well, and we're trying to set something up here to make it pretty fun for the local area because this community is obviously no bias here. I'm from this town, but I think that's a phenomenal wrestling community. The coaching from the youth club all the way up to the high school club has done a phenomenal job here of just building a wrestling culture. People love wrestling in this area, and so I know for a fact that when Central Christian College here decided to start wrestling, there is so much support already. In fact, I think they had maybe 1 or 2 home duels since they've started, just because when you start a new program and you're trying to build a roster, it's gonna be a little bit hard to schedule if you don't got 10 guys right away when you first get going. And so I know for a fact they've had the bleachers and stands packed with people that probably didn't even know about wrestling, just because the culture that was built in this area and the environment. So when they offered that position to me and it opened up, it was a no-brainer to take this job, but to also come back home. It's like I said,
Yes, it had a few different pulling points for you, right? I mean, you can do this. You can also be home, right? Back in the
right.
So that's awesome, man. And if anybody's on Ward Wrestling Live watching this right now, please go ahead and share this so more people can listen to Coach Prescott. And go ahead and like and follow Ward Wrestling Live. So that's kind of the program you're building, your goals. You're out getting some kids. You're doing your thing. What's it like being the head coach and you walk in the room, they think you're one of the wrestlers, huh? Kind of young kid taking over the program.
Yeah.
And then being back in your hometown, it's got to be a good feeling. A lot of fans.
Yeah, it's a bit of an experience for sure. I've always kind of had. I mean, I got in the coaching game really young. I was still wrestling at St. Cloud. Well, I was done with my 4 years of eligibility, but I still had about a semester left of school, and so I started coaching at the local high school at Sartell St. Stephen's in St. Cloud, Minnesota, or in Sartell, Minnesota. Sorry. And so I got in the coaching game pretty young. Then went to Northern States, which is another Division II program, for a couple of years while I got my master's, and then last year I was at Cornell College in Iowa. The fortunate thing is when I was there, the head coach was also pretty young too, because he got the program kind of handed to him in an interesting way too. But no, it's different. You've got a lot of people that are going to challenge you, just because you are young. They want to see, what you're made of and what your mettle is. But I think it's a lot of approach, and something that I've said in my interviews as well, because I get that question too. Why should we hire a young man that is pretty new to the coaching field as the head coach when we could get someone that's got more experience? And for obviously that's a great question, right? And something that I like to talk about when that's brought up is I don't think it's the amount of years that always means something, because there's a lot of people with a lot of years of experience that isn't exactly quality experience, right? And I think it's the amount of quality that are in those years, right? If you think about it from a wrestling perspective, if you've done the wrong takedown 10 years in a row, right, do you think that takedown is going to work that 11th year? Probably not. So it's about the quality of years, and I've luckily I've been very fortunate with having the type of mentors and support in my life throughout my entire life. No matter where I've gone, like I said, I've been fortunate to have those to get my foundation strong.
Listen, some of the best programs in the country, their coach started at 22 years old, and now they're 40, 45, 44. I had a high school coach on yesterday. He took over the school down there in Florida. And he took it over. He was 22 years old, he said, or 23 or 20. I don't know. It's real young. And here he is 22 years later, he's gotten put into the Hall of Fame. And he can't believe it, but he's like, man, it doesn't happen overnight. He's down at Shenandoah University. As a matter of fact, I kept saying I had Tim McGuire on this morning, but I had Tim McGuire yesterday. I had Tim Prescott. Sure. So True Tim's going in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, I believe the best programs in the country have had stable coaches, and they've started them young, and then they've let them stay there and get through bad times and good times and kind of go through everything, even the pro sports, the Steelers and different teams like that. I think it's good. And youth in the room can't hurt.
Right. I don't think you could put value to the fact that I can still roll around really well with the guys and get a feel, because they could say one thing and then you can demonstrate it, but once they feel it too, what real live pace, it's something different. It's definitely could be valued at different.
You walk in the room and be like, who's the best here? And then you go at it and you're like, okay, now we're good.
Right. Yeah. Everyone's got their, it's they got their own chances and their different levels. When you get to college, it's a whole nother experience.
Yeah. So talk about you just won your national title. It's 2 weeks later, and the coach pulls you for some other kid. What happened there, man? Tell that story. That's
Yeah. So
were you just being a bad kid and you had to prove something, or what?
no, it's a bit of a crazy story. So yeah, 2015 was the year I won my individual title after, X amount of years of searching for a title, right? Never, it was been something I've been hunting down for a long time, and I finally achieved it. And the rest of that summer, I actually competed really well. I went overseas with John Peterson. He's I think 67 gold medalist. His brother is Ben Peterson, who was also a gold medalist. And so we traveled over to Moldova and competed over there, and did a little bit of some ministering as well. Did some missionary work, which was a lot. It was a phenomenal experience. So I was still be able to stay on the mat all summer long. Came back, felt like I didn't miss a stride, and was having to my, and maybe coach would say otherwise, but to my belief, was having the best season of my career, right? I was winning tournaments left and right. I was, and I had some guys challenge me, but I felt like I was passing the challenges and doing well. And then all of a sudden I get a pretty good tear on my LCL on my left leg, right? That, I'm not one for excuses, because I was still able to wrestle. I just took a little bit of rehab, wrapped it up, and I still competed. But while I was out getting rehab, right, and making sure I didn't push it immediately coming back, my backup at the time, Brett Velasquez, who was by the way, a phenomenal wrestler. He's a redshirt freshman at this time, an unbelievable wrestler in the state of Nebraska, 4-time state champ. And I've had this guy as my, my backup, as my training partner when he was redshirting it, and from the majority of this year, or of that year. And he was, he filled in really well, and we never missed a beat when he stepped in, and like our team was competitive. We're trying to repeat. This is the year I won it was the first year we ever won it as a team in any program in history at St. Cloud State University.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, it meant a lot to us, not only to just win, and we didn't want to be the one-hit wonder team, right? To do the impossible or the unthinkable at St. Cloud. But we wanted to do it again, because we were bringing everyone back. Everyone that was at that national tournament was coming back. So, Brett Velasquez did a phenomenal job to, step in my role when I was, away injured. And he was undefeated that year. He was beating everyone in the conference. And so, 2 weeks prior, I'm starting to, get back into the swing of things. And I get a text after, I think like an 8 a.m. We had our morning lifts, morning practice. I'm in my class. I get a text from, Steve Costanzo, our head coach at the time, or he's the head coach still, but my head coach at the time. Hey, can you come into my office? And I'm like, oh, well, that's never a good sign when you have coach texting you, hey, can you come in the office, right? I walk into the office, and then he sits me down and goes, you could hear a pin drop, because Brady Wilson, our assistant's in there too, and they both say like, hey, I think you're the guy still, because you haven't done anything to prove us otherwise. But Velasquez has proved himself to earn himself a wrestle off. Like what else can he do to not earn himself at this point? He's gone undefeated. He's stepped in. He's beaten nationally ranked wrestlers. And we didn't get a wrestle early in the year, because he was out with an injury as well in the beginning of the year. So we never got that wrestle off that year, and we never met head to head in an open tournament. So it was, it was one of those interesting things that it put coach in a weird position. How's he not going to grant this kid a wrestle off? And if he doesn't, he's the redshirt freshman. I'm a senior at the time. Is he going to lose this prodigy kid? Some kids are going to transfer if they don't get their shot after they've done literally everything they're supposed to do. And it was tough at first to like understand it, because in my eyes, because I practiced with them, and I thought this is a kid that I always took under my wing, and I'm like, well, all right, whatever. I'm just gonna roll wrestle and prove why I'm the guy, right? Yeah. And, I got the ego coming back from winning a national title, and it comes back to at wrestle I wrestled a duel on Friday against Upper Iowa, against the number 5 ranked guy in the country who was undefeated at the time, who, mind you, this kid's got a credible story. Malik, he had this crazy heart thing. He's from Florida, I believe, actually. He had this incredible heart problem. I think he had even had surgery on his heart, came back through that same year and wrestled and All-American, which, I mean, he's a credible story. But anyways, I was wrestling him. He's a big Greco guy. Coach told me beforehand, hey, watch the double unders. He's going to try to throw you. And of course, I shoot in, not even thinking about it. He gets double unders, puts me in my back right away. And now I'm down 6-0 right off the gates. And luckily I came back in the third period and it was in a stick in him. But, 2 days later, I got to go wrestle Velasquez now after, one of those type of matches, and make weight again. Cause making weight was a different story. I was kind of big for my senior year, coming in and weighing around 148, 150 from the summer, and then cutting down to 125. So it was a bit of a cut. And so 2 days later, I'm wrestling Velasquez, and I'm telling you right now, I don't think I've ever wrestled a match where someone was as hungry like Velasquez was before. He was just a whole different wrestler that day. And, right away, I was sitting in an overhook, because I do a lot of work from overhooks, believe it or not. And boom, got lazy with my head and my position. And no joke, I got a headlock right to my back and stuck in the first wrestle off. And I think it was like 30 seconds in the match. So I got had to go out in the hallway, get my head right, come back. I'm like, all right, it was just one. I'm going to go win this next one. Then the next one is, I swear I've got a million shots off on this kid, right? And I'm taking shots left and right, and I just can't get an answer. I can't score. At the same time, he's not scoring either, but I'm taking a 50 billion shots, it feels like, and not gaining any ground. And we go into overtime, nothing happens. We go into the ride outs, and I go down, I get my, or no, he goes down, gets his, or no, I go down, I get my escape. Then he goes down and he gets a reversal.
Really?
He gets a reversal on a crazy scramble on the edge of the mat. I was trying to hold him down, and I forced something that, I probably shouldn't have forced, obviously, and forces a mad scramble, some leg pass in here, some rolling around, and he gets up behind me for 2 points to end up winning on the last second. And, and mind you, when you win a national championship or a title in our program, they put a huge banner of you, right, in a room. And I just remember like being on the ground and him being behind me and a whistle going off, and that's it, right? And looking up, and I'm seeing my championship banner just right in front of my face. And I'm like, this is my senior year, and this is 2 weeks prior to the regional qualifier to make it to nationals. I'm like, this is it. That's my career. Ended not even in a chance to make some noise. But it was, he's a kid that earned it. He was sitting, I remember after practice every single day, he'd be coming out and grabbing me, asking me technique advice. He'd be doing his own workouts on the side. He's a kid that was hungry. And then he goes on, I don't know how this happened, but I got coaching credentials. They gave me some coaching credentials to sit in his corner and to coach him all the way through. And he ended up winning a national title that year.
Really? Good for you.
He was, but it was not nothing I did. It was just more moral support. He was, like I said, this kid was on a mission this year.
Yeah, but that shows a lot of character on your part to be able to come back and be like, yeah, I'm cool with that. Let's sit in the corner. I'll help him out. That just shows a lot of couth. Well,
that's just the type of culture we built at St. Cloud. Costanzo was always made sure it's not an individual sport there. And when we had 52 guys on our roster at the time, and that person that was on this, would be on the lowest part of that depth chart was just as equally as important as the guy that was on the highest on the depth chart. And we did everything together. He built a family culture, and so for me as a team captain at the time, a senior leader, it was a no-brainer. I'm not gonna, I can sit here and sulk and be upset, But who am I going to blame? Am I going to blame coach for putting me in that position? No. I had two chances to prove my point, right? I had two chances to show that I'm the guy, and I didn't. And so the only person I can blame is myself. And so, like I said, I could sit there and sulk and try to divide the team in that craziness, or I can rally together and show what we really are about and what the culture we built there. Because, like I said, we've got to prepare to defend our team title, and to me, that was more important than any individual title I could possibly have.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. So, man, great story. I love it. What do you tell kids these days when they're transitioning from high school to college? Obviously, there's kids and they go through high school and they're very dominant, and then they walk into a college and they're not very dominant.
Yeah.
How do you prepare them for that mindset to where you need to kind of humble yourself a little bit?
Yeah. So I'll start with the mindset. I'll give a free plug here, free plug of advertisement to Wrestling Mindset with the Zanetti brothers. They changed my wrestling. They changed St. Cloud Wrestling, and they work with the Olympic programs. If you haven't heard of them, look them up. You can find them on the Facebook or any social media platform. Wrestling Mindset with Zanetti brothers. That's right there will significantly help you.
Tell them to come on.
Yeah. They will significantly help you develop into a better wrestler. If you need anything, you can always reach out to me about that later. But I'll tell you right now, that will transform your wrestling with just the mindset of things. But just be willing to work and be willing to relearn things, because I guarantee you probably got habits that you could get away with and punking kids in high school and middle school and whatever that you're not going to be able to get away with in college. Because here's the thing. You might be a 4-time state champ, but guess what? Your practice partner is also a 4-time state champ, and he's competing for you for the same spot. And so you got to be willing to learn. You can't be stubborn. And if you're coming in with a stubborn and arrogant attitude and thinking that you can't, or you can take on I want you to be able to think you can take on the world, but you feel like you can't do anything wrong, you're going to struggle out of the gates, because you're going to have to relearn a lot of things, and you have to put in a lot of work just to catch up to where everything is. Because
what's the difference between an 18-year-old kid and a 21-year-old man?
Yeah, and you add in red shirts and potentially Olympic red shirts and all that stuff. You could have a 22, maybe even 23-year-old, and people like Ashnolt's situation where they're a big gap, and you're dealing from a kid to a grown man they're just bigger, faster, and stronger. So the weights, obviously, a strength training program is key. You've got to be strong, because you could have the best low single or the best high crotch in the world, and technically wise, is going, but you're hitting a 22-year-old man that's been lifting, and he's a senior or a redshirt senior. His hips hitting you, that's going to be a little bit different than what the hips you've been feeling for the last X amount of years. So you just got to be willing to adapt, and I think that being able to adapt is probably the biggest thing, because things aren't going to be working your same shot that has worked your whole life. You may but you're not going to be getting at the same percentage as you did in high school or below. And you just got to be willing to adapt. So what's next? Are you going to be doing the same thing over and over and over if it's not working? That's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome, right? So if you can't adapt, college is going to be a long 4 years for you. So maybe 5 years.
You got to learn that, man. That's awesome, man. Yeah, tell Wrestling Mindset. I'd be happy to have them on talking a little bit.
For sure.
Come on here. Tell them to share the video since you shouted them out. They might as well take the video and share it. Share my video, everybody. And so you ready for the 10 questions?
Sure, as ready as I'll ever be. I don't know if anyone could be truly ready for these.
All right. St. Cloud or McPherson?
Oh, don't. Okay. Well, I've got to say McPherson, because that's where I was. That they made me who I was, right? And granted, St. Cloud made me the wrestler I was, but McPherson made me the man I am. So I have to go with McPherson. That's a tough one, though. That's a dirty question.
All
All
right.
right, Costanzo.
Val's or JD Quicks?
Oh, Val's, 100%. Val's is the place. That's why I was cutting so much weight too. I'll tell you that right
It
now.
was hard, huh? The House of Pizza or Papa Murphy's?
House of Pizza. Their pizzas are so unique and they're massive too.
You picked McPherson, but St. Cloud's kicking
I know. But Papa, Val's is something you can only get in St. Cloud.
Yeah. I can't read my handwriting.
No worries.
Summerland Family Fun Park or McPherson Water Park?
McPherson Water Park.
Hey, they got one.
Oh yeah.
Vikings or Chiefs?
Neither.
Really?
Neither. I'm a Colts fan.
Really?
Yeah, my dad was born and raised in Indiana, so I got brainwashed at a young age.
Oh, interesting. Minnesota barbecue or Kansas barbecue?
Oh, that's a no-brainer. That's Kansas barbecue there. You can't get any better than KC barbecue.
That's what I figured. Double leg or inside trip?
Oh, double leg. I am a double leg guy, 100%.
High school scoring or NCAA scoring?
NCAA. Back points on the edge, 4-point writing time, all of it. The more ways you can give me to score, the better.
I like it. Fargo or 32?
That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I mean, historically, maybe not historically, but more mainstream, I'd say people would say Fargo because it's kind of the mainstream one. But Super 32, they produce a lot as well, and that's a really tough one to put on there. I don't know if I can answer that one.
Okay, what about Iron Man or the Beast?
You're gonna get me to make some enemies here real quick, aren't you? Well, jeez, I don't know. I'm just gonna say Iron Man. I don't know. That's tough though. That's tough. I'm gonna make enemies. I'm sorry if I made any enemies out there.
Oh,
They're both great.
I didn't have the Iron Man question down. I asked because you kind of hesitate on the other one, and then, I don't even have this written down. I can really get you in trouble and say like Minnesota wrestling or Kansas wrestling.
I'm gonna say Kansas wrestling.
Yeah.
Kansas wrestling just to kind of one up Minnesota, even though Minnesota's, we know they're the real deal.
A few years ago, you would have said Minnesota.
Oh, probably. Probably, but hey, no, Kansas has got some really strong homegrown talent. It's just the problem is, people have had trouble, and historically have had trouble getting them to stay in the state of Kansas, and that's where, I'm hoping to change that a little bit.
They feed them that corn.
That's right.
Hey, so last one, more dominant, pin or tech?
Well, there's nothing more opposing against a will than a pin, but a tech fall, come on now. You can't, that doesn't just accidentally happen.
Yeah, you got
tech fall is, they're just the better wrestler. Let's be real. So I don't know. A pin's always exciting. There's nothing more exciting than getting a pin and the crowd going nuts. But a tech fall, you've been working on that kid for how long, and you're getting rewarded for that. So I don't know. I'm gonna go. I'll play devil's advocate. We'll go with tech fall. I say that's most dominant because a pin, you could be up 14 or down 14-0 and get the pin and win. And let's be real, you weren't dominant in that match. So
yeah, how many times have we been watching a match on YouTube or a match live or a match somewhere, and the kid is just. I remember last year I was somewhere. I was watching maybe it was a qualifier for 32 down here, and kid was wrestling and he was dominant, and then boom, the kid just grabbed an arm spin on him, and
yeah. But I don't believe in getting caught. I think you're just out of position. He was better in position, and he was better in that position that time.
Yeah, and I remember the coach telling the kid, hey, he keeps looking for that arm spin. He keeps looking for that arm spin. Like he could see the guy kept trying to set it up, and the kid was more dominant, was just working him. And then he was up like 10-2, and then the kid caught that arm.
Yeah, but that's why we wrestle, right?
Yep.
You wrestle until the ref literally has to pull you off of him.
That's the one thing, like wrestling and tennis. I know tennis is not like physical, like it's a physical sport,
Oh
but
yeah,
it's not like a physical where you're fighting combative, right?
sure.
But it's similar in a way where I can show up to practice and be like, hey, you know what? I challenge you. I want your spot. I want to move from 5 to 4. I want to move from 4 to 3.
Sure.
And you've got to play the game. And hey, I may get lucky and hit a couple lines. I may get a few serves in. I might get lucky and maybe you'll sprain your ankle while you're running down the court.
Right.
I don't know, right?
You just
But
never know. Or someone gets tired. Tennis is, I actually used to play a little bit of tennis for fun when I was in college, and that you want to cut weight or you want to really get a good workout and play tennis against a pretty good tennis player. You're gonna be going back and forth all the time.
yeah, and it works both ways. I have my little one's 11, and so going into last spring, the first off season that we really did anything, Daniel was in 7th and 8th grade, but that's all really he wrestled was just the season. And then, excuse me, I tell people that I coach like do off season, do off season. I'm like, what the hell does that mean, right? So I
Sure.
figure it out, and I find tournaments and we go. Well, the little one has only really messed around at that time in the room a little bit, just because his brother's at practice, so he would go and roll around a little bit. Well, his first I took him to a couple of AAU tournaments. He got, he did okay once and then got worked a bunch of times. So then we go to a rumble at CFWA. It's the first rumble we've ever heard of. We go there. Now CFWA's got that's where Lake Highland Prep is, so they've got a really
Right.
good program. And the little one just gets hammered for like 4 hours, and he's like, "Dad, this isn't for me. I don't like it. I'm going to stick to tennis," right? So he sticks to tennis. And then halfway through last season, coach talked him into the room, even though he's in 5th grade, so he can't legally wrestle in high school. But they had a 6th grader that needed a dual, like what do you guys call them? Like a training partner or whatever.
Yeah, practice partner. Yeah, something like
And
that.
so he told Daniel, hey, the 6th grader comes only, or told Zachary, the 6th grader only comes on Tuesday and Thursday. So if you want to come on those days, come on those days. So he started going a little bit and getting into it a little bit while he was still playing tennis. Well, after about 2 or 3 weeks of going through the wrestling calisthenics, he said he would get back to tennis and he'd be like, they were making him run like the court, run circles, making him do things. He's like, piece of cake. I was just in my brother's wrestling room. This is
Sure.
so he was definitely getting it. So it definitely works both ways. Yeah, but I'm sure if you're weight cutting, man, that tennis keeps you moving. I remember and I'm not in any shape now. I mean, I'm in a shape. It's just this way.
And we're all in shape, right? We're all in different shapes.
Yeah, but when I was younger, I played tennis, and you'd hear the football players or something, kind of tennis player, whatever. I mean, I played some football too, but it was mostly that. And I would tell them, all right, well, come out let's do a set on the tennis court. Let's see how much shape you're in, right? They're like, damn, this is hard.
It is. It's different. It's different.
Yeah, we train for our sport, right? So it's like, what did Michael Jordan said? Man, I wasn't in baseball shape. I was in basketball shape.
That's the thing, though. That's a real thing. And when it comes to lifts too, I think a lot of, lifting wise, I do a lot of, I'm sure people know who Dustin Myers from Ohio State. Their wrestling program there. He's a head strength coach. They do a lot of lifts tailored for wrestlers, a lot of Olympic lifts, a lot of core lifts. Because you don't need to be doing the same type of workouts that a football player that needs a lot of pushing movement, right? Because in wrestling, you're going to be pushing a little bit, but a lot of motions are pull, right? Or you do a lot of core work. So you got to design the workouts tailored for wrestlers because it's different. Yeah, you need to do extra things to still strengthen those muscle groups to prevent injuries and to keep you healthy. But when you think about wrestling functional strength, it's different. It's 100% different than
what's good if you go back to my videos for my interviews, or I don't know, whatever you want to call them. There was a guy yesterday, Tim McGuire, that I was telling you about,
Mm-hmm.
and he's over in Tallahassee. And I asked him, I said, how do you get how did you get the football team to buy in for your program? Because I feel like, and now I had done some research during the season before I started this, trying to get my mind right on how can I help our wrestling team? Who do I need to go after? Because I'm not a coach, but I love the coaches and I love what they're doing with my kids and I want to be involved and I want to help them. Like I can't help you on the mat, but maybe I can help around the mat, right?
Sure.
So I was learning some things, but he, man, if you can go back and listen to him, or if any high school coach out there, college coach, whatever, wherever you coach, right?
Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out how to get your football guys in the room. Listen to Tim McGuire yesterday. He said, I tell them that we do hand blocking drills. I tell them that we do low to the ground. You know, he took their sport and he talks to their sport in their terms, but with wrestling moves. So it was really interesting to hear how he would say, hey, do your kids tackle? Yeah. Well, I can teach them how to tackle better. I'll teach them how to do a double leg.
Right. Right.
And you don't think of it like, or at least I didn't think of that way, but he said, yeah, I had to learn to, I kind of learned to talk in the football guys' terms, and it kind of made sense. And I'm sure everywhere, right? You take over a college program, I'm sure there's got to be guys like yourself that go, you know what, man, I can't find a 220 for my life, right? So I'm going to walk over to the coach and I'll be like, yo, you got some big dude that needs some work. I think I can help him, right?
Finding a solid 20 or well, in college we don't have 220, we have just 197 or heavyweight, but still finding a big guy like that, you know, is difficult. And even at the Division I program, it's difficult because a lot of them thinking, you know, football, right? That's what they've, you know, they're big, they've got that size, and they've been told that since they were walking that they're going to go play college football. So getting them to, well, one, fall in love with wrestling because, you know, as they know, they go hand in hand because a lot of them do both. Getting them to fall in love with wrestling and then continue to wrestle in college and break that chain of what they've been, you know, feeding in their ear their entire life is a challenge. And so you're going to be getting, you know, outside of that Division I, or even I would even argue to say outside of the Big Ten, you're going to be getting a lot of guys that, you know, are probably football primary first, you know, and so that's a good tactic to have, is relate a lot to football because they may be extremely athletic and all that, but the wrestling technicality things may be escaping them a little bit. And so if you can get them into their element, you know, just like a teacher, you know, teaching and coaching go hand in hand anyway. They're the same thing in my book, just different things. But, you know, teachers, if sometimes they have a hard time with a kid that maybe isn't understanding it, you get to know, it just goes back to getting to know your athletes, getting to know your kids. If you're a teacher, you know, that's how you build a program. You know, how are you going to coach a kid or teach a class if you don't know who your kids are, right? You can't coach the same kids the same way. They're not robots. They're not manufactured in a company where they all got their serial date and this is how they work. No, every kid's different, you know, and I'm going to have to be harder on a different kid than I would be on another kid because they handle it differently. And so you just got to get them in, you got to know who they are and really get to know them on a personable level and then coach them from there.
Yeah. And I would tell you and any young head coach out there, I had a gentleman on yesterday. Let me find him. I have to go back to my notes.
No worries.
He is, yeah. Well, I was telling you, he took over the Shenandoah program.
Right.
And or not took it over, he's starting it. And it's absolutely incredible. He went out to it's here somewhere, but this guy was unbelievable. He's coached at Chicago U, which is obviously a big time college.
Yeah.
And Tim McGuire. Okay, so Tim McGuire is the one that's taking over Shenandoah and starting the program there. my apologies. Mike Crowder is the one down in Lincoln High School that I told you about to look up for the football stuff. So
Yep.
sorry guys, I do 4 of these a day, so I'm getting a little mixed up. But for you young coaches out there, head coach Tim McGuire, he's starting a wrestling program, but he's been involved in wrestling for a long time. And I have his interview on my page. It was really interesting how he talks to students and student athletes and the perspective that he brings to them. One of the best things he said was, you're preparing, he put, you need to choose your college based on the next 40 years of your life, not the next 4. And it was pretty strong because, and it makes so much sense, right? Because he was saying do that. So for you guys at Central Christian, and he was talking to all the coaches out there, everybody out there. We have a lot of good young coaches, old coaches, middle-aged coaches, any coaches, assistant coaches. There's a lot of good colleges out there, and that's one of the main reasons why I started this, Coach Prescott, is because everybody gets to see Iowa and Ohio State and Penn State and Nebraska and so on and so forth, right? We can turn on the TV, we can see it, we can hit YouTube, we can see it, we can hit whatever. But all these parents out there who have kids that are wrestling, what is there, 75 Division I college programs or something like that are looked up? So yeah, 2 or 3% of them might go there. But for the rest of these parents, they need to meet Tim Prescott. They need to meet Coach McGuire. They need to meet Coach Mazeski, Coach Norton, Coach Fuentes, Coach whatever, right? They need to meet those guys because there's a lot of really good programs around that have a lot of good young men and young women that are there to help you. And it's good that this platform is here now where they get to meet you, because where else would they meet you? Where
right,
else would they meet Central Christian College's coach? And he is Central Christian College. He is in Kansas. There is a Central Christian University down in Florida. This is not him. I learned that by doing my research for him. I kept coming up with that one. So I had to change university to college. He is Central Christian College up in Kansas.
No oceans over here.
Yes, if you're looking for good barbecue, go wrestle for Tim.
Yeah, that's right.
Kansas barbecue is tremendous. Hey man, I hope we got everything you wanted to talk about out. I'm looking forward to looking up Central Christian College and watching you guys wrestle. Did you say you were NAIA?
Yep, we were NAIA. Yep, in the Senior Athletic Conference. Awesome. So we'll actually be hosting the regional tournament this year too.
Oh, nice. So yeah, I've been learning a lot about NAIA. I've had you, I've had Life, I've had St. Andrews, I've had, is it Grandview? Grandview. I've had, gosh, if I forget you guys, I'm so sorry, but I've had a lot of NAIA, and it's, oh my goodness, how many good people are out there in that division is incredible.
It is. A lot of phenomenal coaches. And one thing I like to say, and kind of what you're mentioning, you know, there is a lot about not for 4 years, but the 40 years things. There's not a bad choice. There really isn't. It's more of what's the right fit for you, you know, and it could be completely different than your buddy. It could be completely different than your parents. And so it's something that, you know, when I recruit, I always tell them to do a lot of searching and go on as many visits as you can. It's not gonna hurt my feelings. Obviously, I'm gonna be I'm not selfish, but I want you on our program, but I don't want you here if you don't want to be here, you know. And I want to make sure this is the right fit. And because at the end of the day, you know, wrestling is wrestling, right? You're gonna get in here for X amount of years. If you redshirt 5, if you don't 4, and if everyone's wrestling chapter comes to an end, right? And so if the only thing you got out of your 4 years was how to be a good wrestler, you completely missed the boat, right? That should be secondary. Becoming a good wrestler and winning your titles and whatever your goals are of wrestling. Yeah, like I'm as competitive as you can be, and I love wrestling probably, and I would argue as much as the next guy. But wrestling will always come second. It can never be your first, because one, if you obsess about it, you're never going to get it. It's going to consume your thoughts. It's going to consume who you are. And if you're not actively pursuing, well, for me, my faith in God, that was number one, and then it comes family and it comes academics and then wrestling. And if it's not in that order, and I put wrestling on this pedestal as an idol, then I'm missing the boat, right? I'm not preparing myself for life. And I'm doing a disservice now as a head coach. If I can't get these kids to believe in something more than just wrestling, right, then I did them a disservice. And honestly, I should probably give them a refund, because that's,
obviously when you're
about.
out there. Yeah, when you're out there looking for these kids, obviously one of the big things you're looking for is faith-based. For your program, faith-based is very important. You can be a really good wrestler, but if you're not willing to kind of take that walk with us at Central Christian, then probably not the place for you, yeah?
Well, I mean, we take all sorts. We're not, I wouldn't say that if you're not a Christian, don't come, because that's not the Christian faith. Jesus walked among themselves and all that stuff. And so we take all sorts of kind of people, but they are surrounded in an area, in an environment that is a faith-based college. It's a faith-based university. And so, you're going to be getting that type of the moral focus where, we don't want you out doing stupid things on the weekend. And in reality, if you're doing those stupid things on the weekend, even if it's your redshirt year, you tie it to wrestling now, are you really going to achieve what you want to achieve, right? If you're out, staying up to X now and doing, God knows what on the weekends, and getting yourself in trouble, doing things you're not supposed to do. Where are your priorities, right? One, you're probably skipping class because you're going to feel like crap the next day, and now you potentially miss morning practice, or you come in and you completely miss your practices and you're not focused. Okay, well, you're hurting yourself.
That's no bueno, right?
Yeah. So it's I think it's the right environment for, it might not be, okay, you're not, where's your walk with God? Everyone's walk with God, or where their life is different. Okay, people stray, and some people have never really, okay, well, I know Jesus or I know about God, but what is it, And that's Central Christian is the perfect place for you too. It's not just for people that have grew up in the environment. There's people that come to us that have been in broken homes and they need a place that they get structure and they just need that type of, and family environment, because, you're not going to find a more family environment than here. The professors know you, they know your family, they know everything about you, just like our coaching staff, just like the community members. Our high school coach, Doug Kretzer, I guarantee, is going to get to know you just as well as your high school coach down in wherever you're from. And so this community is a small, close-knit family that you're going to be able to find a second home here.
And how much is it going to help? We just keep talking because this is fun, but how much is it going to help you, first of all, in your hometown, but how important is those high school coaches and those two youth programs? I saw that there's McPherson youth program, and then there was another youth program or something that you were highly involved in growing up.
And, Smoky Valley.
So like down here at SEU, another NAIA school, Coach Brandon George is at that program. His little brother is the assistant coach at Lake Gibson, a local Lakeland high school. So they're starting to be able to get these kids into college, but also keep them in Florida and kind of local to their, the kids that don't want to go out of the state and they don't want to go away from home. And how important is it going to be to you to kind of keep some of those homebred kids and give them opportunities that you had?
Oh, it's everything, and that's why I'm going to be, to be frank, we're actually building a new wrestling facility right now that's going to be done this fall before, our wrestlers can get on the mat and everything. So it's going to be ready for them. But I'm also using that. I'm trying to currently work some business deals with some of the youth programs in the area so that we can build a community. They work and they have their own kind of an older facility right now that they wrestle in, and I want to share, I want to bridge this community and to grow it, and not just, we want it for McPherson Wrestling Club, right? Obviously, but I'm actually living in Newton, right now, which is about 20 minutes away from McPherson. One, because it was an advice I was given to by my head coach was, you know, live a little bit away from where you work and all that stuff. But two, I strategically picked this place because Newton, you know, I want to grow them into our family too, right? They've got a strong program. So if Newton High School, if you're listening right now, be sure that I'm going to be knocking on your door quite a bit as well. So, but you know, I was wrestling in Smoky Valley, which is in Lindsborg, Kansas. I wrestled for their club, you know, all the way up basically until high school, and then I wrestled for McPherson High School. And so I'm just trying to, you know, I'm trying to create an army here. You know, you can't be.
You had mentioned. I'm sorry if I talk over you. Sometimes I tell people I apologize because sometimes there's a delay. So I feel like your lips stop moving, but then your voice comes out when I start going.
No worries.
Right. So my bad. You can see I'm very professional back here. I got my whole studio ready.
Well, hey, I'm in my moving boxes office still.
I finally bought a green screen. So it's supposed to come in next week. So I have no idea what I'm doing with it. I think I'm supposed to put it behind me and then hope that the picture shows up on it. So I'm going to figure that out. So I may be able to do that. So the town is kind of a walking town, right? Where you are?
Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's a smaller town, but it's kind of stretched out. It's very unique. You know, it's stretched out for a bit, but yeah, you could, if you're really motivated, you could walk anywhere in town, you know? And so,
and you had mentioned you want the other college too, the one that doesn't have wrestling right now. You were talking to them about bringing wrestling, because how awesome would that be for the entire community?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it, honestly, and I want to keep growing. And people, I've never understood this, or why people are afraid of competition, or they're afraid of, I don't know where their fear is of, you know, well, more competition area means more people taking recruits. Well, okay, that, I mean, statistically, yes, but our main goal as a coach, well, it should be, is to grow wrestling, right? You know, winning and all that stuff, you know, should come secondary. I'm not a win at all costs kind of guy. I'm going to be making sure we're not cutting corners. So we're going to be going through some growing pains, because at any time you got a new transition and you do things the right way, you know, doing things the right way isn't necessarily the easy way. And so when you do things the right way and you don't cut corners and you're building it from, you know, ground zero basically, and all that stuff, you're going to be going through some growing pains. So we're going to be going through a lot of growing pains and taking our lumps for sure. But I want to grow the sport of wrestling. I want to leave the sport of wrestling better than where I left it. And here's the thing. The sport of wrestling is greater than any individual, greater than any athlete or any coach, because it was here before us and it's going to be here after us when we're retired down the road as well.
That's awesome, man. So I better get off because I got to get ready for my one. I got to be ready for Coach Bono.
Sure. Hey, you tell Coach Bono hi. I actually, you know, when I was at Northern State, we worked with them pretty well because he was at South Dakota State at the time.
Oh, wow.
We actually dueled against each other, or not dueled against each other. We were in the, well, no, we did. I remember, yeah, we did my first year there. We did a South Dakota showcase where Augustana, us, I think it was Dakota Wesleyan, and
yeah, he was a two-time D2 qualifier for UNCP. What is that?
What was that? Sorry.
He was a two-time D2 qualifier for UNCP.
Probably Cal Poly. Oh, I'm not 100% sure then. Are you talking about a different Bono then?
Oh no, it's Cesar Charbonneau.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Bono at Wisconsin.
Oh, no, but he can come on too.
Yeah,
no, it's okay.
My bad.
I'll tell him you said hello. Hey, Coach Bono.
Yeah, yeah. You can tell him I say hello too, and the other coach too as well. It's always about building that community.
Hey, thanks so much for coming on. I'll ask you like I ask everybody. Please refer me somebody, or share my link with somebody so that we can get more voices out there and we can talk about how wrestling is life. And this has been fun. Thank you everybody for your support. We're growing. We'll have our 100th show tomorrow, I think. I haven't figured out which one it was. I got to do the counting, but we'll have our 100th show tomorrow, which is awesome. We've got another Florida coach coming on next with Coach Charbonneau, which we just mentioned. And it's been fun, man, and getting to meet everybody. I hope one day I get to meet a lot of these folks in person, you know, like yourself and everybody I've been meeting, and everybody's welcome on. I have a book now button on my Ward Wrestling Live page. Please join that page and like it. There's a YouTube if you want to subscribe to that. And please share my interviews. The way that the word gets out is by everybody sharing the interview. So please share your interview and do that. And good luck with you over there at Central Christian. Very, very humbled to meet you. And I'm glad that wrestling has you in it. Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. The dog's waiting for you.
They are.